Hi, Andrew from SACS. How do you improve behaviours in a work group? People rely heavily on things like mission, vision, values to try to achieve this, and research evidence suggests that it's not very successful. Mission, vision, values tend to be conceptual, they tend to be vague, they often have been created by people that I don't even know. The alternative is a much more local phenomenon, and that's called group-generated behaviour protocols. Local group behaviour protocols, generated from within each group. Now, if you're going to go down this path, you've got to accept that the behaviours of different groups within the one company should be different. And I think that's self-evident, by the way. I mean, do you really want the behaviours of your accountants to be exactly the same behaviours of your customer service people? I think that's a logical inconsistency. It makes no sense. So let's talk about how you create group-generated behaviour protocols, because they can be demonstrated to markedly improve the behaviours of any work group. This is what it looks like. So you get the group together as a group and you define specific observable behaviours. And the best way of doing this is by splitting the group into subgroups and getting them in their little teams to think about the behaviours that we think will cause us to be more successful. So those behaviours can be very specific, like we will attend our meetings in time. You might choose to define above the line behaviour and below the line behaviour. So above the line behaviours is the behaviours that we want to see more of, and the below the line behaviours might be behaviours that we want to see less of. This might end up with defining 10 to 12 desirable behaviours. I mean, we've done this multiple times for different organisations, and sometimes you'll end up with 7, sometimes you'll end up with 13, but it seems 10 to 12 is a relatively common number that a group of, let's say, 15 to 20 people might come up with. As we said earlier, they might be quite different team by team in your organisation, and this is extremely proximal. Now, proximal just means it's close to the employees, whereas mission, vision, value statements tend to be very distal. They're kind of conceptual. Group-generated behaviour protocols can be refreshed regularly as the team and the organisation changes. The good thing about this is that if you do the exercise that I've just described, you get people together and say, all right, well, what are the behaviours that we want to see from ourselves? Get people to vote for those behaviours. In a team of 20 people or even a team of 50 people, you can do that in an hour or two easily. So unlike a mission, vision, values process, which is big and unwieldy and taxing, you can do this relatively quickly, team by team, as the teams evolve. A really important thing to understand is that if you've got a team that's struggling, the behaviours of today may well be very different from the behaviours that they want to subscribe to in 6 months' time. Because the behaviours of today might be remediation. Let's stop doing certain things and let's start doing certain positive things. If that's actually happened, down the track, let's say 6 months down the track, you may well find that the group becomes much more aspirational. And so they might be growth type behaviours or innovation type behaviours. So the good thing about this process is that it can be done quickly. Now, as to leading this process, I think sometimes what we also see is that we see a top-down approach to mission, vision, values. These are the mission, vision, value statements for this organisation. You must obey these. The alternative, though, is, you see, facilitative leadership is where you're drawing solutions from the group. Now, not surprisingly, if you look at the research evidence about these 3 models of leadership, top-down, consultation, or facilitation, when you facilitate, which is where you're causing groups of people to come together, and in small groups you're getting them to come up with solutions, and then you're getting the whole group to vote for those solutions. It's a process called facilitative democracy. When you do that, not surprisingly, the group is much more committed to what comes out of that process. So group-generated behaviour protocols tend to cause people to respect them far more because it's been generated from the group. But then what the job of leadership is to ensure that those behaviours are core to how we evaluate people. So we will use them to congratulate and recognise people. And in a confidential kind of a sense, we might take people aside and say, well, look, you were part of a process where we agreed certain behaviours. That behaviour that you just demonstrated is not one of those behaviours. It can be used as a way of congratulations and a way of redirection all at once. So there are some ideas about how to optimise the behaviours of any work group. If this content is of use to you, then don't hesitate to like and subscribe.